Hi everyone, and thanks for joining us today for some virtual Vitamin Z as we bring the Detroit Zoo to you. My name is Claire and I'm a curator of education with the Detroit Zoological Society, where we are celebrating and saving wildlife. And today we have a special treat. We are out at one of our bird habitats, which you may or may not have seen before at the zoo, and I have a special guest with me. Let's say good morning to Matt. Hi Matt.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Matt is one of our keepers in the bird department, and he's here today to talk with us about the Kookaburras. And I'm going to put this down so you can see the Kookaburras, and we're going to zoom in just a little bit because they are way up on the top of the trees. If you can see, they're up on the top. So I know that we haven't had Kookaburras for a really long time. How long have we been caring for this pair of Kookaburras?
You know, we've had them for about 5 years now. They came in from different zoos. The male and female came from different spots, and they've been here, and we introduced them, and they have done well together ever since.
And it's just the two that we have in our care right now?
Yep, that's correct. Just the two Kookaburras, and I believe the female is around 5 or 6 years old, and the male is about twice her age.
I hope you can hear them communicating. A really cool fact that I found out when I was doing a little bit of research for this Facebook Live is that that call that they make has actually been recorded and used quite a bunch in the film industry. So when the film industry is getting ready to do like a jungle scene or something and they need that soundtrack, that's what they use, is the Kookaburras calling.
It's a very classic sound, and yeah, I think they like to use it.
It's really kind of neat. I'm glad that they did that. So I know that Kookaburras are native to Australia, which is typically a little bit warmer than here in Michigan. Do they stay outside in this habitat all winter?
Yeah, no, so they come in for the winter. Like you said, a little warmer in Australia, but Australia does get some areas where it does get pretty cool. So these guys are fairly hardy, but you know, you never know what we're going to get with our nasty Michigan winters. So once the heart of winter is coming, we'll bring them in before it's getting too cold at night. And they have a very, very nice indoor area that we will prop out for them, and they even get a nice pool inside.
That's awesome. Beyond that temperature range where they should or really shouldn't be outside, do they have any other unique care needs that you and your team kind of help them with here at the zoo?
Well, just like all the animals that we care for, we really study their life history, and we look at the needs of the species as a whole and then each individual. And these two birds are very healthy birds, so they don't really have any special needs. But as far as being a Kookaburra, we just try and make their habitat as natural as possible. And kind of as you can see right now, we like to prop it with some nice perches that would almost be like a conspicuous snag in the wild where a tree had maybe been burnt or died out. So, and as they're seated up there right now, that's where they really like to hang out.
Awesome. So they like that vertical space, and they do have opportunities to fly around in this space too.
Yep. And as a predator that's gonna be looking on the ground, oftentimes they like that open space so they can be watching and looking for prey items.
So that was one of the other cool things that I found out while looking into some information, is how adaptable they've been to like human development. So they've adapted really well to moving into like neighborhoods and urban areas and finding food in those places. I actually read a couple accounts of them swooping down and eating people's food off their barbecues.
Yeah, they're not shy, but they are. It's really great. Some of these few species we've seen that really have adapted well to humanity. And they've done well in their range, like you said, in park-type settings. They've also, unfortunately, been introduced a lot of places around the world, more so on Western Australia and even into New Zealand and some surrounding islands. And part of that introduction was probably done because they're really, really good at killing and eating snakes.
Okay.
And it might have been a way to help keep snake populations in check. But just a minute on, very, very dangerous with moving around species, and that's why we always want to protect our environments and not necessarily move them, because you can really have wide-ranging negative effects And they have established populations in New Zealand and some of those islands.
That's really interesting. And I was surprised too when I found out that they ate snakes.
Yeah.
They just swoop down and they grab these relatively large snakes, and they're able to
yeah,
eat
that
them.
is a very large part of their diet. It would be snakes. So they are in the order of birds called Curaciformes. And if you're really, really into your birds, so that would be motmots and bee-eaters, which are some cool South American forest species. Your kingfishers. So one note on the laughing kookaburra is they are pretty much the largest kingfisher in the world.
Very cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What do they eat here at the zoo?
Yeah, so they are a carnivorous species. So we usually give them mice and maybe some meat or a little bit of fish. But even though they are a large kingfisher, they don't do a whole lot of the aquatic variety.
Okay. How do you feed them? Do you just put the food like in different places in the habitat?
Yep. We have one main area in back where we feed them. And then often on other days, we'll kind of scatter the food around the habitat so that they can be foraging naturally. We'll also use some invertebrates, give them crickets or maybe megaworms or even earthworms, and we'll scatter those around the environment for them to eat too.
Now, so when the bird team learned that kookaburras were coming to the Detroit Zoo, how did you decide how to prop this habitat? Because there's some really interesting features in here. I'm going to point out a couple, and then there's these really long, tall branches that you see that are propped up against the side. There's a perch up on the top, like a kind of little platform. And you can see both the kookaburras are in the back right now. They're both sitting on wires, like cables, I should say. How do you decide how to prop a habitat when a new species is coming in, like the kookaburras?
So yeah, any species that comes in, we're going to take a good look at its life history, study the species, and then we'll start from there. So looking at their environment over in Australia and how they like to hunt, well, we certainly wanted to give them some vegetation. So we've got nice vegetation out here. We wanted to apply, with any animal, we want to give them a sun versus a shade opportunity. So we've provided shade for them.
Let me show them the shade really quick.
Yeah,
I'm just going to tip this
definitely.
back a little bit. You can see there's this whole platform built up on top. So there is a shady spot all the time that the kookaburras can choose to spend some time in.
Yep, we always want to give them choices. And then let them talk for a minute. Hopefully you can hear them. And then we propped it out nicely with a lot of higher up props that we kind of talked about earlier. And then they, the wire that helps keep the enclosure how it is, they like to use that too.
They use all the different aspects.
Yeah.
So do these two individuals have personalities that you've noticed between the two of them? Is like one always down first to eat, or?
They really like to hang out as a pair. I don't see a ton of difference in their personality. I would say the female tends to be a little bit bolder. And the female is also bigger, so in a lot of your predatory bird species, a lot of hawks, eagles too, the female's bigger, and that's the case with them too, is the female is generally a little bit bigger.
Are we hoping this pair at some point lays some eggs and hatches out some little tiny kookaburras?
So they currently do not have a recommendation to breed. So with most species, the population within the zoos are managed.
Okay.
And I believe that their genetics are pretty well represented throughout the population. So we currently do not have a recommendation for them to breed.
Also, something that I found out while I was looking up kookaburras before we chatted this morning about them is that in the wild, their youngsters will help take care of like the next round of chicks. So they'll help incubate the eggs. They'll help look out for the baby chicks and keep them warm. Help defend some of the territory. They're fairly territorial birds. Is that the norm in bird species, or?
So not necessarily, no, but let them talk for a couple. Hopefully you guys are hearing that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
They're making quite a bit. They're enjoying this talk too. So where were we? Yeah, so as far as having chicks help raise the next clutches, not very common in birds, but there are some species that do this. There's some differing reasons that birds may have that. The Florida scrub jay, one cool species, a unique species, a jay down in Florida, the chicks do the same type of thing. And one benefit is those birds as juveniles will then learn how to raise chicks and be better at that once they have their own territory. And with the case of the Florida scrub jay, there's just not a lot of territory for them, so sometimes they're kind of waiting for an opportunity for a habitat to open up for them. In kookaburras, not so much the case. They have ample habitat and they adapt very well to different areas, but it's a great strategy that helps make the chicks survive.
Any exciting stories about kookaburras that you've come across in your time caring for them here at the zoo?
So these guys are quite feisty. We'll go back to diet. So we were talking about what we provide for them, but they are fantastic predators, and a lot of times they will choose to feed themselves. And let's just say chipmunks beware, do not go in there. And they've also gotten quite a few house sparrows, so sometimes they decide that they want to provide for themselves.
That's awesome. Boy, you should put up like little signs for the chipmunks so they know not
yeah,
to.
right. No chipmunk crossing in here. Right? Not a good idea.
At your own risk, at least.
And they have a really, really strong neck and a really strong beak. So not to be too graphic, but just talking about predator and prey. And when they can use their strong beak to kill their prey, but if they can't, they will hold it and use that strong neck and bash a prey item against a tree or where they're sitting to disable it and then be able to eat it.
That is really intense.
Yep.
That call is just so cool, that communication between them.
Really a wonderful call that they have.
All right, so as the kookaburras sing us out here, thank you for joining us today for some virtual vitamin Z. If you're looking for some more opportunities, other lessons like this, other activities, we have live cameras set up on some of the different animal habitats. Check out our website, detroitzoo.org. Matt, thank you for taking time this morning to chat with us.
Thank you guys for stopping by. We enjoyed it.
Until next time, everyone, stay safe and take care of each other.